Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of BopCast. Today on BopCast, we're actually doing a little bit of a combination episode. So this isn't, your traditional BopCast episode. Me and Stefano have had a lot of conversations over the last year, probably a little more than a year now. And we thought it was valuable to bring both of us together to have a BopCast episode for sure, and to highlight what you've done and the things that you've built in the past few years, but to also include some of our ramblings about business and life, which we thought could be valuable to people. And I think I agree that our conversations could easily be just like another piece of content, So appreciate you having the idea to do this, and then us bringing it together on the Zoom. And you're in Florida, I'm in Jersey, so that's a little bit tough. I'm gonna make my podcast run eventually, my countrywide podcast interview run.
Your world tour.
My world tour, yeah, my BopCast world tour. But that's not gonna be for a little while, man. So, so we got to do it like this. But I'm more than happy to do it like this. So, if you could introduce yourself and explain yourself in the lens of your company, and then we're going to take it a little more broad after that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ryan, for having me, and I appreciate this time because, and I guess since this is almost like a joint podcast, I'm going to say hello to the How So listeners as well. If you heard me, usually I would be the one to ask the questions, and I think this conversation right now is almost like it's a mutual thing. So Ryan's gonna be asking me some questions. I'll be gladly following up on what's happening with Ryan, obviously. But this has been a long time coming, right? Every time that we've had a phone conversation, and I think we were just talking about this before the recording, it always has some kind of weight. Has a weight to business, to our ideas, where we want to see ourselves or how we see ourselves to people. I was just thinking at the time when I was texting you this idea of Ryan, we haven't talked in a while, really. We've been busy in our own thing. We need to just create an episode, or even not even that. I think we were trying to catch up on a phone call, and I said, let's have a better idea and let's make it actually an episode. So I love that you're up for it, and it just felt like we have a lot to say about a lot of the topics. We don't have any specific agenda, I guess, for this one, right? So it's just more of hey, let's just show what we've been working on, and then kind of touch on some subjects that I feel like are common, what a lot of entrepreneurs or founders or creators, change makers, influence, whatever role that you play in that creates something. We'll just cover that today. And I thought that was really interesting, and I hope we can even do this more often. By the way, right now I'm scrolling up to our DMs on Instagram onto that first message, and when I hit you up and I heard about the podcast,
yes,
and it is almost 2 years now, actually.
Wow.
So let me actually, I'm almost so close to it too. But it's about to be 2 years, 2.5 years since we've known each other, and since we actually have not met up at all.
And you made the first one. You made the outreach. You found me.
I found you, yeah.
Which was incredible for me, because I'm like, who is this guy? Randomly found me, and he's a fan of the podcast. He doesn't even know me. That was an eye-opening moment for me.
Yeah, and I will just briefly talk about that. I'll gladly talk about myself and what I do, but as I said I think in our first episode of the house, and that was my first episode with you.
And this is sort of a follow up to that as well, if you want to listen
to that.
It
actually,
because we're in completely different places now. So
can you imagine?
I know that's crazy, but anyway,
that's the yeah. So I was just saying, I love how that first episode, when I reached out to you, I think the reason why was because you talked about something very relatable as millennials or Gen Z, and what you went through as you were creating, the BopCast podcast, and what kind of went through your mind and head about that. And I hope, this conversation does that for people. I think that's the ideal goal here. Or if not, if there's no goal, then who cares, right? But at least we can have a conversation about this. So moving on. So my name is Stefano Selorio. If you guys didn't know already, I am the I'm a podcast host of the Household Podcast, but I'm also a founder and CEO of Carevocacy, where we bring seniors into the age of tech. And my story is I have a grandma who has Alzheimer's, and that labeled my family and I as caregivers. And I wanted to find like a better way to take care of her, especially, I go to school, I do work, and all these other things. And at the time, I wanted to create an app, but then I realized I didn't have enough money to really start it. And so and I say me really, I had to pivot to something a little bit more specific, but still, in the realm of like helping our senior citizens and our elderly population. And I thought it would be a cool idea to start a tech education service. So before the pandemic, I was helping out senior citizens, or anyone who's like 50 and above, basically learn about how to use a certain piece of technology. And when the pandemic happened, I had to kind of switch that up and turn it up to online. And it was a lot of, I guess, when you're like starting something on your own, a lot of the decisions you make are pretty easy. You have no one to kind of really talk to whether this is going to be like a good idea or not, which, by the way, is a topic in itself as a solopreneur, I guess. But yeah, I had to pivot it, and then I had to host basically online classes for seniors online on Zoom or Google Meet or whatever. And then I ran that for a while. For the pandemic, I did some partnerships and stuff like that, and I can talk more about it. But in conclusion of who I am, I love building products or services that are for the aging population. Just exploring that. I'm a marketing major as well, so it helps me kind of figure out and challenges me what kind of people I work with, especially creating this service business. So yeah.
So
Thank you for
was
the
it
question.
your yeah, no problem. And thanks for all that context because I think that's important, something that I also kind of not that I overlooked, but I just didn't even think about because it's us. I don't think about the context. And so it's good for listeners to know. But so it was you being in the place where you had to be the caregiver for your grandmother, who you're frequently, while I'm on the call with you, you're frequently helping her out. It's not like you designed this business and now you don't have to help her anymore. That was not the point. The point was to take a little bit off your plate if you could, but also probably just knowing what it takes to take care of somebody like that, and then also what they need. And it's got to be a lot different than like my grandparents. Some of them lived an hour away and some of them lived 2 hours away. But if your grandparents live with you, it's a whole different ball game, and that
Yeah.
gives you a different perspective. I think if that was the case with you, I'm not sure if you would have built
Mm.
this business. So, but I'd like to have you answer that question. What do you think was you went over it a little bit, but what's the real like what made you say I'll build this business for this purpose? Was it a moment? Was it everything? Was it just your grandmother? Was it your friends saying they took care of their grandparents? The list goes on. I'm just wondering that.
Yeah, yeah, I appreciate that, and that's a really awesome like insight you caught on, because that is true. I guess if I was not in a particular situation to be fortunate to have my grandma would live with us, and I say fortunate because it is because I
Yeah.
having
Oh,
her
I
with us.
wish my grandparents were next door, man. Really, I love them.
Yeah, that's a really I'm glad you're asking that question because no one really asks that question in a way that you did, Ryan. Um, because they're always asking, that's a great story, and they cover that and that's that.
I'm a digger, man. I like to dig. I don't take surface level. You know me.
By the way, digressing the topic, I did find like the first message I sent you. It was back in December 2018. So it actually has been 2 years.
Over 2 years, man. It's been
Yeah,
2 years, 2 months, huh?
yeah.
Wow.
And I sent you this. I sent you. It looked. I'm looking at it. It's looked really desperate, but like I was really proud of your episode.
Man,
I was
no,
like,
you're
because I
good.
sent I sent like three messages, and then if you look at it now, it's like a long paragraph of messages of like just me like, hey, like this is how I felt during that episode. I was washing the dishes, and I'm like, and then I was just like, I guess for some reason, I felt, and I'm gonna answer your question. This
No,
is
no
just
worries.
interesting, but like, I just felt like I was in your shoes, and because I've always been the person that creates stuff, and you never know whatever it's gonna happen or how people are gonna feel to that. And so when I was writing that message, I felt like, this is like me. If I was in his shoes or me, really, I would love to have somebody, like share this stuff and how it
And
impacted me.
that's, by the way, that's what it did for me. I mean, it's not. I had received messages like that before, but not messages to the extent of let me tell you what I was going through and what's happening in my life while
Yeah.
I'm doing this. Let me give you all the context instead of saying the message that doesn't help me is your podcast is dope. That doesn't really help me.
That's
I know
that's
that it's not the best
we
podcast,
we
so it
love
helps a
it.
little bit. Yeah, like I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, encouragement, I get it. But the best thing is if I have a little context, you know. So yeah, I really appreciated that message. It was great for me. I'd never received a message like that, so that's awesome
Yeah. No,
to take it back. I'm
yeah.
glad that you brought that up and took it back there.
Yeah, I was like, ooh, because I'm sure it was like, I was trying to think like it was around this time because I know it was. Hmm. So going back to your question, Ryan, about like, I actually have like two form of answers to that. So it's like a professional and personal one. So obviously, it's pointless to have this business. Sorry, it's pointless to have my grandma learn the technology education because she won't even remember it. So technically, it wouldn't be her. But in the beginning, when I was building this, it was for that. I personally was in the middle of it. I had to switch schools because of taking care of her. So I didn't like the idea of it, uh, but it had to be done. And people can argue about that and stuff like that. I could have had choices and whatever, but at the time when I was making those decisions, I felt like it was the right thing to do, and at the same time, it wasn't like the easiest thing to do. And so personally, I created something because it just selfishly, I was just the one really dealing with the problem. And then I did a lot of research, to see how other people were feeling this, making those life changing decisions for someone they really care for. And, I just saw that there was a need, I guess, right? That's the basic way to say it. And then professionally, you know, I was looking in the industry, healthcare, senior living spaces, and I just realized that there was a really big growth and stability. And I say this because, in the next like 5 to 10 years, there's going to be a lot of older adults, and then especially with healthcare being so well, we're going to have a lot of people living longer. Um, I did not have the foresight that we would have a pandemic and the fact that even the problem got even more heightened than ever. So I would say, like, personally, I felt like I was in the right timing, I guess, the right fit to be in this mindset to be thinking. I'm definitely not the first one, but yeah, there's a reason to why the reason why I really got into it was one, it would benefit me in the long run. It's a very long game industry, I would say. And then personally, I was just trying to solve my problem and solve other people's problems with that.
So somewhat of a perfect storm opportunity, as far as
Sure. I definitely was not thinking like that in
no, no, no,
the
no. But now looking back, I mean, think about it. It's not like, yeah, like it sucks that the problem exists, but it's great that you can solve it or at least try to solve it and help other
Yeah.
people solve their problems too.
And it is such a big, like, it's such a big industry, you would say. Like, it's
And
a
what
big
industry?
problem.
What's the name of the
I
industry?
would say it would be in the senior care industry or the aging industry. A lot of
Age tech, as
age tech,
it may be
right? Like that would
defined.
be the
Yes.
thing. Yeah. I mean, it's a very novice term. So meaning like I say this stuff, but like not a lot of people really know this
Like
stuff,
ed
right?
tech, like, oh, we know that. Like ed
Yeah,
tech, we
yeah,
understand. Like
right?
that's been
Yeah.
around for 10 years, the term probably. But age
Exactly.
tech, you're
Yeah.
the first person I've ever heard say it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like it was just very ironic. We work with older adults, yet the industry and all is still new, right? Like people are still focused, like they haven't really focused on like what the actual problems. And I think again, as I said, the COVID-19 virus kind of really heightened the problem and the things that we need to actually solve for our seniors. And we don't usually talk about that. So again, there's even like conversation there's even conversations like, are we doing it for older adults in general and living, or is it going to be like people who take care of somebody? So there was like I would say there's a weird word for me personally, like a weird dual identity of like, where am I really working at? But the good thing that what we do with Curvocracy, and I say we all the time, and people call me out for it, but it's really just me and with awesome group of interns and especially
but
advisors.
Curvocracy isn't you, so that's the point.
Like
Podcast
it isn't me.
Isn't me
exactly,
either,
exactly. I feel like every time I have to say
you don't have.
I gotta clarify that because it's and this is I don't mean to jump topics, but just that's just an example of like, this is not me at all. Like the problem when I was trying to solve this problem, like from the very beginning, like this wasn't like a me thing at all. It was like I saw this happening with my life, with people I care about, and it's a we thing, and it's not. So I've kind of made a habit of saying we, and not just because I'm trying to put up a hype on that part, but just like I really have not done this by myself. And so yeah, I think as you said again, it was a perfect storm. It is very new to what I'm trying to head into, and I personally don't think I don't think it's going to be the only thing I'll be working on. I don't think I'll be working on only the education. There's a bigger plan to what I'm building on this, and I can divulge that into a little bit later. But like, there's a reason why I'm entering it through education, not through some kind of like tech startup building an app or a product or whatever, which I did try to do in the beginning. But I think there's a way to enter this market, this age tech market, in a way that is, playing under the radar enough, and just being strategic about like how I enter the market, rather than just coming out the gate with a product that your end user might not even use. So that's where I'm at.
There's a macro goal that you have in your mind, but
yes.
and you're doing the micro.
Yes.
To eventually get to that goal, but you're focusing all your energy on what you're doing in the day to day and trying to build that, because that's what it is. If you focus way too much on one or the other, you're screwed, right?
Well, how about you? How about you, Ryan? Would you say that you deal with that too, trying to figure out what you need to focus on and what is your macro and micro?
It's actually my biggest issue, probably. I mean, it's more of
okay,
a life.
Elaborate on that.
It's more of a life issue than a business issue, because I like too many things. It's like an issue, man. The thing is, like, dude, I was gonna buy a violin the other day. I'm glad I didn't buy it, because I would have tried to learn violin. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get into things. Like, and now I'm trying to like narrow it down. Like, I'm just like, all right, let's just squeeze this into like a few things, and right now I do 4 things on an ongoing basis.
Okay, what are those 4 things?
My podcast, BopCast, this podcast, that was all one thing. Podcast Principles, my business, Sully Bop, art,
your
music,
mm-hmm.
And then I have a part-time job that I love. And then I'm a DJ, but let's put that down because pandemic, so let's do 4. So 4 is too many, I think, I mean, it just depends on, obviously it depends on the person, but I think that I know ultimately that focus is going to be the thing that grows it. So when I'm like, I want to do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, sure, I can and still support myself. But the thing is, when you start thinking about those macro goals, like, how do I get how do I build my own studio, right? That takes a level of focus now, because I have to back engineer everything to get to that point. And I have to cut out other things that I love, but that don't contribute to that macro focus, right? So that is a issue. That is a problem that I face in life and in business, more so in life. In my business, I do one thing for the most part, really. I do a few other things now. I'm dropping all of them, and I'm sticking to one thing. Which is podcast production, right? So I think I think what I have to do really is set parameters, understand what the macro goal is for each of the things. And if it's the large goal, if I'm not that passionate about it, then, then I'll just move that to a hobby or just a here and there thing,
Yeah.
So I don't know, I'm going kind of off in the weeds now, but
No. I think it's a great realization that you just said there, which is like here's the thing. What I believe that I think anyone who is creating their own thing, right? I think you're the type of person, and this is the same about me too, is that you can do anything really. You know what I mean? Like you can be like really proficient in anything if you really put your time. It's not like you don't have the innate ability, but like you're the type of personality where if you do spend the time to do it, of course you're going to do your best and you're going to be efficient with it. But the question isn't about like could you do everything. The question is about like could you stay focused on one thing and then make sure that you're really good at it so that you're not like pulled by so many things you want to learn, like by the violin or even like like even if you think about it, like your different part-time jobs or something like that, like, you know what I mean, like focusing on this or that. And it's not easy, obviously, because you're seeing either immediate results or not, no immediate results. And I think that's like the hardest thing for the both of us, where you're building something, and I'm sure you have goals and ideas and where you want to lead it to and stuff like that. By the way, like I'm gonna add this to it later, but like having some kind of goal and focus that's like the most hard thing to do as you build something of your own. For example, I actually have there's a local newspaper or local news magazine here in Florida, or like the city that I live in, and and it's not posting anything out right now, so they're not generating any content. And I talked to the actual owner of it, and she was telling me how they're transitioning to a different model, and she's kind of feeling like it's going down and stuff like that. And I was thinking in my head, and that was like a month ago, but I just started thinking now, like I want to buy that newspaper company. Not because obviously newspaper is kind of dead right now.
SBA loan, let's go, let's do it, right?
But I wanted to get it because I was like, like if I could turn that business into something, I would be owning like the media, right? In a case of like the city, or like in the local city I'm in, because it's not
little Bezos over here.
I was like, because you got to expand your thing too, and plus if I could go into it, but I was just thinking about that. I was like, should I focus on like owning that? Should I build this? And
that's like my whole life is the one-off things.
Yeah.
Oh man, I could do this right
Yes.
now. Like, and this could be a game changer. That's why I have an ideas folder in my phone. If somebody took my ideas folder, ran with like 2 of those, you'd probably be pretty successful, because I just don't have the time for them. It's like, like that's the thing, is like, you have good ideas. Your idea is probably a great idea. If you ran the numbers, you determine location, are people reading this? What's the benefit? Is, how can we grow? All of these logistical things. If you put it on paper, it would probably make sense, but that doesn't mean it makes sense to do it. And it probably doesn't make any sense for you to do it, right? But that's the issue with having a mindset of, I could do that. Well, that could work, with everything almost.
Yeah, I don't know if you know, but I've been on Twitter a lot recently, and if you follow a certain set of people, there are like really smart people there. I don't follow like the ones that are just like randomly talking about certain what do you call this, nonsensical topics, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But there's this one person who's a 12-year-old, and he is like a huge programmer and developer, and right, as a 12-year-old, and he's created about like 12 products, like 12 like programs and stuff like that. And it's very interesting like how he goes through like what he builds. But I think his mindset is like, it doesn't, like, to him it doesn't really matter what he builds, he just wants to build and creates it. And I would say,
dude, he's
like,
12 years old. Like, if he builds anything, he's just trying to build things, dude. I was doing Legos. He's doing products, but
he's just trying to build things.
He has a 12-year-old mindset. Imagine if you had a 12-year-old's mindset building businesses. You just had fun. You would just have fun.
But hear me out here. The reason why I mentioned that was like I think it's good to have that mindset now. It's okay. Obviously, he is in a place where he can be able to just do that without necessarily having to be paid, right? because he does live with his parents and stuff like that, and he's not necessarily have to be he doesn't have to bring in money to the thing. So like of course he has that opportunity to do that, but I look at it as he has a mindset to create things, and you shouldn't necessarily be and I also actually, what, I'm gonna backtrack. He actually has a timeline for when he creates these things. So like I would say, take inspiration from that 12-year-old, but also look at it for like how you can realistically finish that project or that idea, right? Because you can still go over those ideas, Ryan. Like you can still like go get those
Entertain
ideas.
the ideas.
Yeah, like you could still do it, but like give yourself like a period of time for how long it actually works, and then if it doesn't, so you wouldn't be like, because I think that's the biggest thing too. Like when you're thinking about all these ideas, you're not really thinking about like when you're gonna be done working on the idea, right?
No, because the idea is the energy. The energy is from the idea, not from the execution.
Yes. So you're just
in the beginning, then it has to transfer to the execution.
Exactly. So I would say like I don't discourage anyone at all to go after their ideas anymore, but I do ask them like good questions to how are they going to accomplish this idea, what is your timeline, like those kind of things, so that there's a better idea of how they want to go about that idea basically.
Yeah, and if you have no timeline, you're freestyling. Like you're just like, that's the timeline thing is the failed clothing brand. That's literally like, I will say, how many people do you know? Listen, I will like that have, and I know people who have legitimate clothing brands who do, and I know people who have clothing brands that do it as a side hustle, and they're like, I'm not trying to make money, I just love this, I just love doing it. That's cool. They actually, that's what they say, like they're realistic. But then there's people that watch 6 Gary Vee videos and now they're ready to go, and they have the idea and they've never saw anything through to the end except a soccer season, and so they have no parameters. They haven't worked on a 6-month long, $11,000 marketing project, right? Or whatever that is. So yeah, that's just the spark is great, but yeah, to your point, you have to have, if you don't hit the end goal in the timeline, then you got to readjust the timeline. Like you can't just let it go to the wayside and freestyle it all. Even though there's some things that you maybe, little one-off things or something that tests, things like that, but yeah, I feel like for the most part, if you feel the spark and you decide to do it, you got to set the timeline too. Not something I've ever done, but it sounds good.
I would challenge you on that, because I've been testing that out. For example, with Caravocracy, like even though I say like, oh, this is like the opportune time to do it, take the opportunity, you're gonna have like a bunch of seniors that are gonna want to like work with you. But being able to have contacts and like go to people like that is like was key for us. So I've set actually out somewhat of a timeline. It's not like really down and set in stone, but like I've set out a timeline to like send out cold emails basically. Like, and by the way, I've just learned that cold emails, I think it's honestly one of the easiest and cheapest way to get some kind of result. And you may disagree with me, but like there's ways that you can do it so it doesn't seem like it's just a cold email, obviously, but for me, I've set out a timeline because one of the things that we're trying to do is actually reach out to these like home care centers and these places that actually have done the work to transition their members online, right? Their residents and stuff like that. And they just need like that additional education that we provide. And so I've just done that. And the great thing is I've seen like results, meaning results in no's or results in yeses, or results not even just in yeses, but also a time to meet, which is amazing because then I can like, turn that into something if they really want to work with us. So that's just been like an amazing thing, because if it weren't for necessarily the timeline for like when I want to do this, then I wouldn't have had like, what do you call like and by the way, I don't follow every timeline. I'm not perfect, but I'm just saying like, if it weren't for the timeline, it allowed me to kind of give an accountability to it for like when I need to send those emails, what am I expecting when I send those emails, and when I do receive a reply, or if not a reply, how do I follow up with those and stuff like that.
I had almost a full-time job. You know all about this job. where that was my job. I answered 3,000 cold emails a week, so I know they work. I agree with you. I do cold LinkedIn. Now, I do cold LinkedIn because I'm on LinkedIn, whatever. I'm there. When I need to do the emails, I'm going to go to do the emails because I know it's if you have the right emails, you're set. You get your calendar booked. You can do it. Or whatever your goal is. Cold email is amazing. I am opting more for the video side of intros more than the text intros right now. I'm testing. That's what I'm testing. And like as you said, you're sending this certain amount of cold emails per week or whatever it is. I'm just doing videos, and that's my test right now. So I'd like to, come back and see where you're at and see where I'm at and see how our numbers look, and see kind of what works. Obviously, we're completely different industries, but
Yeah.
but a testament to the cold emails, man. It's very underrated. It's work. Now, if you have a VA, which that's what I was just talking to a company last week to get a VA. I'm not there yet, but then it's really worth it, man.
Clarify what a VA is.
So a VA is a virtual assistant, and so that's somebody typically from another country that other than, like, if you're in the States or in the Northeast, typically from another country, and they're extremely affordable, and a lot of them are very skilled and talented, and they can do all of your outreach for you. If you have your offer right, if you know your copy, if you have all these other things in place, your website, all that, if you have all the other things in place, there's a couple different ways to do it. You can hire a single VA, like that you hire, that like I would get on a call with and talk to and train, or you can hire a VA company and they will train the VA for you, and they will be your go-to person working 20 to 40 hours a week, sending out those cold emails, doing all that outreach on 5 different platforms, so you can actually focus on your business. And right now I just don't need to do it. I just not there yet, want to grow a little bit more, but that's just me. But yeah, man,
But here's my follow-up question to that, though, Ryan.
You got it.
What is your end goal so that you can get in a virtual assistant? Like, what is the thing that will give you evidence to, like, hey, I can't do this by myself anymore? Right?
Well, I have a new offer,
What do you mean?
I have a new offering and new packages. A lot of my podcast production is completely different now.
Awesome.
So, and which I haven't spoken to you about that much, but I can go into. But anyway, I want to get the new offer down, but I can't hire a VA next week, and because I don't even know the right wording for the offer or how to actually, sell it effectively. So that's my plan. I have to sell this offer first, and then I'll come back and be able to train the VA.
Exactly. Like, you can't.
I can afford it right now. I mean, I can buy the VA now, but it's just I want to do a little more work.
Would you really benefit out of it? You know what I mean? Like,
time is the main benefit.
I guess you would say
is getting the calendar booked without me having to do it. I mean, that's the thing. But then the thing is, I also, all my clients, like, I love them. Like, I've made connections with them. Like, they're my friends. So that's the thing, is you kind of lose a little bit of that initial outreach. Like, me reaching out to the show after knowing them for 2 months and doing a custom free episode for them and all that kind of things.
So would you say, well, I guess my question was also asking, how much money do you need to bring in to be saying that I need a virtual assistant? Because I know the time is there, and people are always going to argue about, like, you should spend money to make money, that kind of thing. But that's also a question of, like, I don't know whether you need a certain amount of this or so to bring in so that you can securely and safely say, like, I need a VA, right? Like, I need somebody who can help me out.
You want them to pay for themselves. So
Exactly.
You want to be in a position where you have enough cash flow and enough excess cash to pay them. You don't want to be using all of the cash that you bring in. So for me, like, for what the numbers that I have been told are, part-time is around $600 a month, and full-time you're looking at $1,200 to $1,400 a month for somebody doing sales outreach or really whatever you want. So I'd say have that cash, $500 a month excess to use to then invest it. That would make sense. I'm not saying that's the way to do it. I don't think there's even a right way.
I see what you're saying. Like,
I know companies who would take out a loan to pay the VA and then just hope the ROI comes, and that's not me.
I'm not a
Me either, man.
The only loan I've gotten is my student loans. That's, that's
Retweet, dude. Retweet on that one. I'm about to pay
I don't
those
want
suckers.
I don't want any more any
I'm
loans.
trying to pay them.
especially-
I gotta pay those suckers soon, man. My first payment's coming in a few months.
Yeah, any loan that I want is only the student loans that I gotta pay back.
But
Which,
you know what? I'm glad that you asked some questions about the VAs because I'm looking at it now. But besides that, on the topic of employment and having people work for you, I mean, I know our businesses are different. I think pretty different, but I think that you have more experience with people under you, which I don't really have a lot of experience with, or maybe training people, interns. Like when did that, the same way you asked me the VA question of when does that happen? What do you need to put that in place? What did you need to have your first intern? Yeah, and was that the actual right place to start after you started doing it? Were you like, oh, this is a good timing, or did I jump the gun?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I love the transition. I did see that, but I realized, well, to be honest with you, I'm the wrong person to be asking that question, because when I first had thought that I needed interns, it wasn't actually for me. And this is again another thing about myself, which is I see myself fairly altruistic, so I'm pretty self-serving to others. And
I agree.
When I did get those interns, those were my classmates who unfortunately had their internships when the pandemic started canceled, because the companies that they worked for did not have the ability to quickly adapt, just like how I'm a small startup, so you could quickly make those decisions again. So I thought, this is an opportunity. Obviously, I'm getting free help, but also I'm trying to help my classmates in this way because I want them to kind of experience what I go through. So when I was doing that, it was, at first I thought I needed it, but then I realized that there was actually more work to actually train somebody than I thought. And I think it was also my fault for not setting the expectations correctly to the people that I asked to be interns for what I actually needed. I was so set on to this thing where I'm benefiting them, which is still important, but at the time when I was doing it, I was spending so much more of getting to change their mindset of how a startup or small business works. And I'm just really grateful for those people that have been on my team and helped me out and know what I've been going through the whole thing. And currently right now I have one other girl, and one other guy. But I've also realized that they're not on the team, if that makes sense. They're not really into what I'm really doing. They're
not you, so
exactly. But at the same time, that's something to think about, right? It's like when you try to get somebody on your team, it takes a lot to get them to the mindset of they understand where this is going, and plus, outside of it, unless they're really invested or they have a certain amount of equity into the business, time plays a lot into it. So for example, there were times where I was I needed them, but obviously I couldn't ask of that because they had a certain time limit that they had to be as interns, or they had something else, or whether it be school or something like that. So deciding on when to get somebody else on your team is difficult, because you have to understand why you really need them. And you have to also understand that it's a longer process than you actually think to acquire. I'm sure you had this problem. You said you've had editors, right? You have had people on your team, to get to that. And some people are picking up fast, which is amazing, right? That's great. And there are just some people who unfortunately just got out of business school and just don't know what they want to do, right? So you just gotta have a balance. And again, I probably think it was really my fault for really not setting out the expectations for what I really needed. And I would say now, looking back at it and now looking forward, for sure, that's why I asked you that question, because it was really what do you call this, an inbound to me of saying I need to see a certain amount of revenue to get to that point so that I can pay that person, so that person has a financial obligation because of the fact that I'm paying that, so that they're even more working harder. Because at the end of the day, again, those people who were helping me out were free. So that meant it was like comfortable. It was meant like they didn't have anything on them, so they weren't working hard so they can get paid. They were working because they knew me and they loved for what I was trying to do. But again, those are the things that I would say to look out for and something to think about when you want to get a VA. And I definitely wish I would be having like $500 a month, in revenue or whatever to be able to do that. But unfortunately, I'm just not at that stage to be doing that. So for the next thing that I'm looking forward to, it's definitely that I'm looking at.
Yeah, actually, you not discouraged me, but you put it in perspective for me because remember when I was talking to you about like, oh, I think I should get an intern or whatever, and you were like, and exactly what you just said now, you said to me then, about you got to think about this because this is a human being that does not know what you're doing, does not really know what you want from them, doesn't know what what you even expect from them, and then they don't know what the goal is, the vision, like, and all that's everything besides the work. I mean, then you bring the work into it, and now this is a whole new level.
Yeah, so. I would say there were some interns who expressed to me coming in with a different expectation of the work that they were doing. And again, as I said, that was very problematic. And I could also say this because I've had that experience where I came into a workplace and the expectations weren't set out correctly. And it's just, we have a lot of, when you work with a startup or a business, you obviously think of like, actually, no. Some people think that you have it all together, but like behind the scenes, like sometimes you feel like you don't know what you're doing. And I think that's what it felt like. So I think it's just, there's a lot of things you have to set out first before you want to get on board to anyone. And then besides the fact that you're going to train them, which is going to take a long time, it's just you want to find somebody who like truly believes in it. You know what I mean? You want somebody who feels like an advocate for what you're doing, not a friend where I'm like, hey Ryan, I really love the idea of what you're doing. You're building a podcast, principles and whatever. I love it. Let me see what we can do together. But then they just love the idea of Ryan doing something. You know what I mean? Like, people fall in love with Ryan and his ideas, but not the fact that Ryan had to go through so many hurdles to even try to build a business like this. No one hears about like many hours you spent on BopCast or podcast principles to even like say that you could even say that into LinkedIn. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, and I say that because you and I have both lived that kind of thing where it's like, you want to expand, you don't want to expand, but you want somebody on your team, and you're not sure if I should have anybody on my team. But just going back to the point of like knowing when to get somebody else on there takes a very long time, and you just gotta be intentional with that. And that person, it's not like an end all die all kind of situation, but like, what I'm saying is like that person has to really believe in what you're doing, and they're just not in love with the idea, but they're in love with the long game, right? And this is your thing, right? Not a one-off business. You obviously see like the pathway of where you want to take this. Does that person see it? And I think that's one of those qualifiers you have to understand when you try to get somebody on your team.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I'm thinking about two of my friends who have helped me with this for free, and some have been paid, some have not. Like Brandon, for instance, he's the video expert, he's the video guy. He's in higher demand. I can't hire him right now. I can't. He doesn't have the hour. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
you have that side of the spectrum, which we've worked together a lot. We've made money together, we've grown the business together, but he's out running his own business. He can't focus on this day-to-day of podcast principles, right? And then you have, my good friend Jack, who he has a full-time job, sometimes 60 hours a week, and some extra time he helps me with it because he understands the goal. He understands the macro vision. And then, my other friend Lauren, who I just spoke to this morning, she has a full-time job working like 11 in the morning to like 8, 9 at night because they're in the UK, right? So it's like, and she's donating some of her time. So that is like, oh, wow. Like, these people understand, and they get what it could be. But when you get somebody, and we can get into a whole conversation about hiring your friends, that's a whole different thing. But when you get somebody off the street, when you get somebody off a job application, they just want to get paid. They just need a job. Like, sometimes it's almost better if you approach them of, can you help me and I'll help you, and not, this is a job. You know. And also, if you have somebody without an entrepreneurial mindset, that's going to be hard to instill that in them. Because they think you look at it like a job, which you don't, because it's a whole different thing. It's different than a job. It's not. It's really weird, to be honest with you. And I think you know what's crazy too? People live their lives like in a whole different mind state than we do. And not me, not you. Like, we're not saying we're better. It's actually just different. It's completely different.
No, I think
so. To get somebody
to, I don't think you're gonna offend
to
anybody by saying that, but like we're not gonna change the world by agreeing with each other all the time. But
truth.
But for this one, I think it's just because you are at the front row of it all, right? And whether they understand it or not, everything that they do or that you do will fall back onto you, right? And even if you think it's like the smallest thing, right? It still feels like it's gonna fall back to you, right? Like, you are still responsible for whatever outcome that comes out of that person or whatever. And so that's why you feel so much, what do you call this, stake, I guess, in the game or whatever they're doing, because to you it doesn't feel like a job. To you it feels like you're building something out of like your heart and your thing, unless you're like a business person that doesn't really care about like those things. But I don't think that's who we are. But I understand that. That's why for me I ask questions, like really, really intentional questions. And the more that I understand them from those questions, the more I realize this was a fun conversation and let's just keep in touch, that kind of thing, right? Or the more that I have like this idea that I want Ryan to like help me out with my podcast and stuff like that, the more I realize, like, wait a minute, I love Ryan, he's awesome, but like, he's building something of his own, and it would be awful of me to do that, to take that away from him, right? Or something like that. So the more you ask questions of like, is this person in the right mindset for that thing, that's the better way to go about it. And then for me it's like for example, like I don't know if you know this, but like I meet with like a person almost every single day now, just to like get to know somebody.
I saw that.
And then I thought if I do that, I would be like collaborating with every single person I meet. But then I realized where it's like, wait a minute, I'm just having a conversation, right? Getting to know them, asking these questions, and then seeing whether it would be the best fit. So for example, for the next person you think about, Ryan, ask them those questions. Hey, have you built something of your own? Because then they will understand like, where you're coming from. Or have you sold something? What kind of learner are you? What kind of, you know what I mean? Like those questions to like really dig down. And then, I'm tired of like the basic job interview questions, which is like, oh, can you give us a little bit of experience or your time in doing this? I'm like, you know what I mean? Just ask those really intentional questions. And I think you would not regret it anymore as to like who you get on your team.
To that, yes, you have to understand the person outside of the context of the business or what you want them to do. You have to take, like, no, let's step away. Have you ever, this is a very specific thing, a really kind of a weird thing, but there was somebody I was in college, and I was, there was like, how sometimes they just have like a booth.
By the way, congratulations on graduating.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. I appreciate it.
We haven't even.
It's.
Let's just take a little bit of slow time here, Ryan. I know you feel like, okay, I'm
not trying to go back to that, man.
But I'm just saying, like.
I had a great time, honestly.
I lived those life events with you from afar, so I'm just saying, congratulations.
No,
it's a big
truly,
deal.
I appreciate it. I really do. And it is a big deal, man. It was a whole lot of my life and a whole lot of money and a whole lot of time and investment and energy and education.
Why didn't you post like I graduated from this? I'm like,
it's not. I
You
don't.
good?
Yeah, I got.
Okay. You didn't want to take any graduation photos?
I did. I have a. Oh, they were terrible. Sorry, my mic. Give me a second.
You're good.
Yeah, first of all, the photographer was terrible. Sorry to him, but he sucks. I'm sorry, dude, but all my pictures were so bad. And then my girlfriend took them like right next to me, so I knew it wasn't just me. Unfortunately, I didn't like them, so I didn't post them. But I posted something on my story like I'm done, but like I don't know, man. Like it was for me, so I'm not. As I want to encourage people to do what's best for them, and if that's going to college, then great, but I'm not gonna say like I did this, like like this is amazing.
But
like it's not that amazing. A lot of people
yeah,
graduate
that's
from college.
true.
I give myself the credit. I did put in the work. I had a lot of help. I also did a lot of it myself, and I also paid for a lot of it myself, and also had a lot of help. So I do have to include my family and everybody who helped me, and my roommate, and meeting you, and like you said, we went through those things together, and there's a lot of factors, man. But I'm just it's over, man. It's behind me. I'm done. I'm out. I got things to do. Like I can't. Like yeah. I don't know, man. People like a lot of. I just needed to get out. I was saying for the last year.
No,
that
I know.
was already ready,
I
so.
know. We've definitely talked about how. Well, by the way, I mean I haven't graduated, but it is my last year. But no, we've definitely talked about like how we currently feel about going through it. But I just wanted to slow us back a little bit and say like let's take a breather.
Yeah,
man.
man.
Hey, we just accomplished this
Well,
thing. You know what I mean?
that example that I was just about to say that actually ties into this. I was
All
at
right, go ahead.
I was at college, and there was a random booth. I don't remember what company they work for. It might have been like a Planet Fitness or who knows. I think it was a gym or I don't really remember what it was. But the guy I was talking to the guy who was at the booth, and I was like, oh, this is how what type of money do you make doing this or whatever, and then I was like, what do you really want to do? And I don't know why I asked him that, man. It was I kind of put him on the spot. He didn't even know me. I didn't know him. And he actually told me like he wanted to do, I don't even remember what it was. It was like he wanted to do something with like video games and design video games or something like that. And he was doing a completely unrelated job. So something that I asked myself in college was, what do I really want to do? And that's a hard question because there's things that people are doing, but
Yeah.
kind of to what we were talking about, like when you're talking to them about your company or whatever, like the best thing you can do is say, this is what I really want to do, and then tell them. Or if you need help, have somebody ask you, what do you really want to do? And then you have to come up with the answer, but I think I knew that answer way well before I graduated. So that was good. I was already off, to a decent start. It's not like things didn't change, things change every day. But I think kind of asking yourself that question and asking it of other people, because when you're applying for a job, that hiring manager or whatever, I want to know what they really want to do. Like, what's your goal, too?
That's a good way to one. But I do want to say that you shouldn't be also afraid of saying what you actually need, right? Because like as fun as it is to ask people, what do you really want to do out of life? You know what I mean? Like,
not out of life. That's not what I'm really saying.
But what I'm saying is like to ask that is great, but it's easy for us to say that because we know what we want to do.
No, we don't. I'm saying like, what do you want? Like that's what I'm asking. Like that's the question. Like people don't know what they want.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like it works at some cases, but if,
true. It's not at all.
Business person, I would say it's also good to set standards of what you really need. Right, because you can.
That's
ask
a great counter to the want question. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you can really ask that question for sure. When it comes to a little bit of a point where you realize that this person can actually fulfill your needs, right? And then it's a good way to kind of create the job description around what they want. But to come out of the gate and say, what do you really want to do? I've just realized that for most people, they don't know how to answer that question, and they will tell you something that they might have thought about, but
yeah, that's what I'm saying. They don't know the answer. Figure it out.
And I would just be careful with that one too, because now you're opening yourself up to somebody who's like, I can give you what you want, but in reality, you don't really want to do that because you need somebody who can give you what you need.
What you
So
need.
those are the things.
I
That's why.
understand.
That's
yeah,
why
I was taking it, I think, more out of the business context. I was thinking
okay.
as a person graduating college or in college or even out of college, if you just took the first job and you know that's not what you really want to do, then ask yourself what you really want to do, you know? So,
I don't know if you saw the movie Soul, but there was a great depiction.
was it an animated movie
Yeah, it was a
about
Pixar-
a music teacher?
Yes, a
Yes,
musician,
amazing
yes.
movie. Brilliant
You did see
movie.
it? Okay, okay.
I loved it.
What I think that was so cool about that movie was that it talked about like how your spark isn't like what you do, but your spark is like what makes you who you are in a way. So like I think there was a scene in the barber scene where he's like he wanted to be this person, but he didn't end up doing that, so he became a barber. And the main character asked him, so you don't like being a barber? And the barber was like saying, no, it's not that. I'm still doing what I love to do, but it's just on a different platform, right? On a different medium. So it's on a different thing. So I think, asking that question, whether it be a business or anything, you have to be intentional with that question of like, what do you want to do? And then help them guide to like, okay, what experience in your past allowed you to do what you want to do, right? Because you can talk to somebody who's been a front desk assistant, right? Like myself in school. And I obviously did not like doing the office basic stuff, but what I loved doing or what I wanted to do was talking to people, being in front of people. That's why I was at front desk. That's why I was like loving that job, because that's what I wanted to do. And regardless of whatever the position was, at the end of the day, I wanted that opportunity to do that. So like asking that and then making sure like you have like some kind of guiding way for them to help that answer that question is a good thing, because I think sometimes if you just plainly ask that question, again, it's like intentional questions is a thing for me. So it's like, just asking really good questions, but also making sure you're helping them understand like why you're asking that question and helping them out with that. It's a really good thing. Man, we talked about like
well, we knew this was how it was going to go, man. Like, just so some context, if people got this far, I mean, this is how our conversations go. Like, this is not like scripted. This is not we're doing talking like this for the podcast. Nope. This is just how we usually disagree on a bunch of stuff. We usually are like, no, dude, that's not how it is. And so you're right. We've been going for about an hour, I think. If I time correctly. So we're probably.
I feel like we need to add the part where the people can get something out of this conversation.
I mean, I hope that
like,
they got something out of the process. But
here's a link to a site that would take you, or here's an infographic that I found. It will give you 5K monthly revenue if you want. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Yeah, let me give you the secrets of success how to sell
buy
in your
this
small
online
business.
course.
Yeah, buy my online course, man. So like, I actually teach you how to make courses, to sell courses to people who need courses, man.
Yes.
And we'll make money making courses.
Do you know that is such a big topic right now in Clubhouse?
I know. Oh yeah, dude. Oh, and the funny thing on that. Sorry to cut you off, but the funny thing about that is that I like when they get exposed, man. That's my favorite.
Okay, so who is your? Oh my gosh, I can't tell you. Like that is like a big deal right now too.
Tell me about the club. What's happening with that Clubhouse?
It's just if you guys don't know, Clubhouse is an app that is fairly new and it's just invite only. And
it's invite only, bro. Exclusive.
But you gotta hey Ryan, you gotta love the strategy.
You have to be on there for a purpose, kind of.
Yeah, but you gotta love the way that it was discovered.
I know. I think it's great.
As much as I don't like certain companies, I admire them for how they.
Me too.
And I'm not saying I don't like Clubhouse. I'm just saying for those companies I don't really like, I admire how they go about things. And for one, I actually like Clubhouse and for what they're doing, especially the founders and how they're carefully going about it. But I just joined it. So basically, you join in a room, have a conversation, and some conversations are really funny, some conversations are very serious, and some conversations are very intellectual and just, like it makes you learn from other people. And the great thing, I think it's different from podcasting because it's all live, really. But what I think, going back to your question, it was just like there's this discussion about how, unfortunately, people who are like selling courses, you see those YouTube ads or whatever. Or like that person who's in California who always has like a video right next to his cars or something, and like, oh, I read this book, and if you do these small first 5 steps, I can get you making 5,000, this and that and whatever. Some, unfortunately, I feel bad for the ones who are legitimately trying to help people, but for the ones who are not, that's just messed up. And so they're using Clubhouse as like almost another platform to scam people, right? Another way to like kind of convince people like, hey, this is what I've been selling for these online courses for a while now, and you can make money. It's just, what's so interesting is that there are literally rooms versus rooms, right? Groups versus groups there. Rooms, obviously, the ones who are running those online courses scams, and then the other rooms are like people who are calling them out, exposing them, reporting them. Like really, I think people who are being genuinely filled with integrity to like do something about that. What I don't want is having any more extreme sides of both of the thing, but it's pretty cool. It's a pretty thing that they're talking about. I don't really usually join as much as in the conversation, but I think it's pretty cool. It's out there, and I think it's that. So I know I was just making a mockery of that because I feel like every time I have a conversation, we're like this, and I'm like, I know we're recording our podcast, so we must have like some kind of CTA at the end of it, right? A call to action to be like, oh, okay. Get our online course at the end of this conversation.
Yeah, right. Like we have to plug something. I mean, I'll plug a bunch of shit, man. But
exactly.
Nothing that I'm really trying to like. I don't even plug my business isn't even a sponsor of my own podcast. Like that's how much I don't want to try to sell you on shit. But I actually have a great sponsor for this podcast now. That I 100% believe in, which I can actually talk about, but. There's going to be at the beginning and end of this. There's probably going to be an ad read anyway. But it's a company that I am. Thank you. My first sponsor, and a company that I'm completely invested in. A product that I was one of the first people to ever use, and somebody I've had on the podcast as well. And a great friend, a brilliant, somebody who's mastered my music before, who's recorded me before, who I'm just so invested in, and just like as a person. As a team, as a company, as a product, and those are the only people I'm sponsoring on this podcast. So, but yeah, man, I would have to go into that a little bit. But anyway, you'll see an ad read after this, so I won't go into it anymore. But
that's really dope.
Thank you,
congratulations.
Man. Thank you. Yeah. I can't wait to see what people do.
Is that on LinkedIn? Is that posted?
No, it's not posted on LinkedIn, but I should. So anyway, you probably want to know what it is. You'll see it after this, but it's called Soda Beats. SodaBeats.com. Okay. It's the easiest way to make beats online, guaranteed. You don't have to steal beats from YouTube. You don't have to. Okay. If you have a video that you need a beat for, you don't have to purchase a beat. You can make it yourself in 10 minutes.
That's awesome.
It's amazing, intuitive. I mean, the list goes on. So, but definitely check that out. Yeah, and that'll be at the end too. But yeah, man, that type of stuff. That's the stuff I'm trying to plug, man. I don't care about my stuff. The podcast, you guys know I make podcasts. People know if they're listening that I make podcasts. Whatever, is what it is. But you got to bring up. You gotta really promote things that you believe in and use.
Yeah, and I think it's doing a balance of both.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
Yeah, it's not I reason why I say that because I've always been the person that uplifts other people, but I've also found out where it's like I'm not asking what I really need, right? So again, that's just also keeping a balance of like making sure, like, of course you want to be this person, but at the end of the day you can't live off always pushing people in front of you, you know what I mean? So it's having a certain like a balance of that, and then just creating your own like identity for like who you are and making sure you're doing that. So yeah,
man, I think that's. Oh, what? I'm sorry. No, I was just gonna say I think that's a great kind of wrap, man. I think that's a great way to a great thought to end on, in my opinion.
Yeah,
we don't have to stop that abruptly, but I really do think that and honestly the whole conversation, man. So I hope people took value out of this. Definitely let people know where they can find you and what your website and everything. Yeah.
So again, I'm fairly active on LinkedIn. So again, if you look up Stefano Selorio, that is STEF, not a PHANO. So Stefano that way. And all my links are there, obviously, through our website and stuff like that and what we do. I'm mostly active on LinkedIn and Twitter now, actually. And then if you guys ever are on Clubhouse, definitely follow me, and we'll definitely have more lively, interesting conversations on there as well. But I'm really happy. Thank you so much, Ryan, for being here. One, for hosting this thing and just being on board with this idea. I honestly feel like, we gotten really better from this, and we grew so close, especially these past 2 years and 2 months now. And I'm just grateful to have you as really an accountability partner in this. So thank you.
Truth. Anytime, man. Thank you for doing this too. And you're right. And this is a testament to building relationships. And they don't have to be right next to you. I've never met you before in real life. I've never seen you. We've never hugged. I've never shook your hand. None of that, man. And we have a stronger relationship than some people that we talk to all the time. So that's a testament. People can be wherever they are, and you can still build that relationship. And as everybody knows, all my stuff, sullybop.com's live, so everything's on there if you want to check it out. Podcast principles, like I said, same thing that he said. I'm fairly active on LinkedIn too, and everything. All platforms for the music, you know the deal, even the ones nobody uses. That was another episode of BopCast. Thank you so much for being here, man. This is great.